Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. This is going to be a video all about the Suicide Squad, DC's movies versus TV shows. The stars of Arrow, we're just explaining some of the big changes behind the scenes that they had to make way back in Season 2 when they started to make these new DC movies. So basically what happened is Arrow had to cancel all of its Suicide Squad plans, as we know since then. So I'm going to go ahead and say spoilers for Arrow up to what's happened so far. So in the past couple of seasons, they've killed off very notable characters that they developed over the course of several seasons, the biggest of which is probably Amanda Waller. They killed off Deadshot. They'd spent so much time developing that. He was a big part of Diggle's backstory. So if you were to ask any fan of Arrow what their favorite season is, or any fan of comic book shows in general, like what is the best season of Arrow, they would probably say Season 2. Because it was the culmination of a big Deathstroke arc, which was just amazing. Manu Bennett was awesome. They had developed their own Suicide Squad. They were doing so much comic book stuff in the back half of that season. They even had their own version of Harley Quinn. But right around the time that they were making that, DC decided to do a Suicide Squad movie. So obviously we know now they've already finished the movie because it's a couple years later. But at the time, the person in charge of deciding, whether or not it was okay for TV shows to use certain characters, one of the presidents of Warner Brothers, really high up on the ladder, decided to collectively pump the brakes on anything Suicide Squad related on Arrow. So it's just a big WTF, but it also caused the Arrow producers to have to pivot their plans for Season 3. So imagine you spend 2 years and millions of dollars developing this amazing rogues gallery of villains to use via the Suicide Squad. They even had a prison for Task Force X. So they called it Task Force X on the TV show because they were being true to the John Ostrander comic. He wasn't the first person to work on Suicide Squad. He was just the person in the 80s that made it famous. Like when Frank Miller started writing Daredevil. Frank Miller didn't create Daredevil, but he made him this amazing character. So if you want to read a Suicide Squad comic book run, just read John Ostrander's run. But can you even imagine what they would have been doing in Season 3 if they still had the Suicide Squad? They were basically getting up to the point where they were going to call Task Force X the Suicide Squad. But unfortunately, it didn't go down that way. And now because it seems like they're doing Teen Titans in the movies, we're probably never going to get to see Deathstroke on the TV show. I think the reason we didn't see more of him during Season 3 is mostly because he was busy filming other shows. He's a series regular on the Shannara Chronicles, so he's a really expensive actor, and I think they didn't want to do him right away after almost killing him off at the end of Season 2. So they didn't want to bring him right back, and in the time span of Season 3, the Suicide Squad movie ramped up, the Teen Titans TV show that was originally going to be on TNT fell through, so I think DC was like, okay, we'll just put some of these characters in the movies, and Deathstroke, being a big Teen Titans character, is probably going to be a part of that. But if you talk to anybody who says that Arrow has been ruined, it's really been ruined by the movies, because think about what Season 3 would have been like if we would have had Suicide Squad. It would have been so much better, and then they could have gone into something even more related, even more hardcore in Season 4, so really the single greatest threat to the TV shows are the movies. But you have to hand it to some of these stars. Like normally you don't get a lot of candor from people like this because they're under a gag order for threat of being fined money. Like if you talk about this in a bad way, we'll fine you money. Stephen Amell is a total champ about it. He got so many questions when they announced the Justice League movie. Are you going to be in it? Are you going to be in it? And even the stars of Arrow this weekend were talking about like he would be amazing in an Arrow movie. He was totally ready to do it. Grant Gustin was ready to kill it as the Flash in the movies. But then we kind of know how that went down. The movie people took a hard pass on TV actors. Oh, they're not popular enough. They don't have a big enough fan base. But the good thing about all this is that now that Geoff Johns is kind of like the Kevin Feige of DC Comics movies, I think he'll be able to help a little bit with that. But there's still people above him that make those decisions. So if his boss, like the president of Warner Brothers, says, no, I don't want this TV actor in one of my movies, then there's nothing he can do about it. He's really there to fix the movies. I think he tries to help out as much as he can with the TV shows. But now that he's writing a Batman movie with Ben Affleck, which I'm so excited about, and he's in charge of shepherding all these other DC movies, I don't think he's going to have time to do as much stuff with the TV shows, and he's not even supposed to be writing comics for the next year or two at least. I don't know beyond that. He'll probably write more comics eventually, but they said that because he's taking on this new role, he's not going to be writing a lot of comics. But let me know in the comments, what do you think about the movies completely sidelining the TV show's version of Task Force X? Don't even call it the Suicide Squad. They could have still called it Task Force X on the Suicide Squad. They could have worked for Argus. They could have just mixed and matched some of the characters. There's a lot of characters that have been a part of the Suicide Squad. The movies could have done their thing. The TV shows could have done their thing. They're supposed to be separate. So why then is it such a big deal that the TV shows aren't allowed to do movie characters? I think it's generally accepted that if a character is big enough, they're not going to be on the TV shows. Like, you understand that Batman and Superman aren't going to be on the TV shows. That's kind of been the thing since Smallville went off the air. Like, okay, we get it. We're not going to do like the two biggest characters in DC Comics history, but you do feel like you're taking it in the butt a little when the movies won't even let the TV shows do minor characters. Like, oh no, we're thinking about doing that character, so you're not allowed to use them, even though our movie won't come out for about 6 years. If you remember, Arrow even had a version of Harley Quinn that at the last minute they were forced to remove because they knew it wasn't going to be a big thing. They knew that DC wasn't going to let them do a big Harley Quinn arc, but if anybody asks you if Harley Quinn has ever been on Arrow, you can say yes, she was definitely in there. But the other big thing, this is more of an Arrow Suicide Squad video, but a lot of you have asked what's going to happen with the Flash movie when they do that. Is the Flash TV show going to have to go away? Absolutely not. The Flash is a slightly different example because that show is so strong and so popular. I think by the time we get to the Flash movie that they won't have as many problems doing movie characters because the biggest villain for the Flash is the Reverse Flash, and they've already done him on the Flash TV show. So it's not like the movie people are going to make them retroactively back that out. It's just I think they'll try not to do the exact same thing that the movies are doing. And the TV show changes so many things about the comics, like it mixes and matches. I don't think it's going to be a big issue. But here's my other big question. Do you think that by the time we get to some of these movies in like 5 or 6 years, do you think we'll actually start seeing some of the TV characters in the DC films? Now, Marvel stuff is a completely different situation because DC hasn't got to the point where their shared universe is as big as Marvel's. So I feel like there's more potential for DC TV characters to make it to screen just because the TV shows are already doing some really big Justice League level characters. But giveaway time. Congratulations to this week's giveaway winner. Gene Tuaro, you win a $20 Amazon gift card. Be sure to private message me on the back end of my channel so I can get your contact details. That's just on the About page. And there is a new round of the giveaway that starts now. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this video. There'll be a bunch of DC and Marvel stuff this week. I've done a bunch of Game of Thrones this weekend, so I want to take like a quick break. But there are a couple big Game of Thrones videos that I want to do, so I'm going to sandwich them in between a couple comic book videos. So really big stuff happening this week. And Stephen Amell is playing Casey Jones in Ninja Turtles, so be sure to go see Ninja Turtles this weekend. While you guys wait for my next video to post, you can click here for all my X-Men Apocalypse Easter eggs, and you can click here for my Game of Thrones video from last night. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Let's high five. I'll see you guys tonight.